I made a lot of mistakes getting to 5-0, mistakes that I totally could have avoided. And if I did, I would have improved so much faster. So in this video, I'm gonna walk through my biggest mistakes, the ones that I see people making all of the time. I'll explain why they're slowing down your progression and how you can easily fix them. But first, what's the hardest thing about getting to 5-0 in the first place? Well, there are really only two things. The first is knowledge, knowing what you need to do and how to do it in order to get there. And then the second thing is consistency, setting up your environment so that you're able to get those deliberate reps that you need to reach that level. Once you have that knowledge and consistency, the ability and the results just start coming. So keep this in mind as we walk through the mistakes. There's no secret. It's just about arranging your life in such a way that you can do it repeatedly and start reaping the benefits. When I first started playing, I would just pull up to the park and play with anybody who would play with me. I really wanted to get better, but I felt a lot of social anxiety because I wanted these people to want to play with me and think I was good. So it really mattered to me whether I was winning or losing those games. I was doing everything in my power to win all of the games that I got put into. But the problem was I had no soft game. I really didn't know how pickleball was supposed to be played. And so the only weapon I had was to just hit the ball as hard as I could at people. So I didn't learn how to drop or dink until months into my progression. I was winning by banging and it was slowing down my progression towards my goal of reaching 5-0 and going beyond. It wasn't until I met some players that were a lot higher level that could easily handle my pace and just pick me apart that I realized the mistake I had made. I needed to develop the soft game, and that meant swallowing my own pride and focusing on developing those abilities over winning. And that's made a ton of difference. I made a whole video on this topic, and it sounds like a lot of you have had this same experience. So it's counterintuitive, but if you want to start improving, you have to stop winning. Okay, so now you're committed to learning all of the abilities that you need to get to 5-0, namely the soft game. But you're still not getting better as fast as you'd like to. You might be making the same mistake that I made for months before I noticed it. Say I wanted to work on my drops, which I did, and I still do, and I probably will always want to. I'd play a game and commit to just drop. No drives. Every third I hit, it was just gonna be a drop. So we're serving, they return to my partner, he hits the third. We get to the kitchen and lose the point. 0 reps of drops for me. Now my opponents are serving, so I don't have opportunities to drop. We eventually get a side out and serve. The return goes to my partner again. 0 reps of drops. Next time, maybe I get the return. I try to hit a drop, goes to the net, side out. And so on and so forth. Over the course of a 30-minute game, I might have only hit 5 drops. And since we know that getting deliberate reps is one of the most important things that you need to do in order to get better, I just was not getting the work in that I needed to develop those shots. So what I really needed to do was spend more time on court drilling. And once I started doing that, I started getting better incredibly fast. I made a whole video on this too, walking through the only 3 drills you really need in order to get to 5-0. As I started to get better, I made another mistake, and that was around the types of players that I was playing with. Open play just wasn't cutting it for me anymore because it was just so hard to get a reasonably high quality game. The skill gap between the best player on the court and the worst player on the court was often so wide that the points weren't really real. So I started seeking out opportunities to play with the very best players that I knew. For me, it was 2 5-0-ish players at the time who are now signed PPA pros. They were so much better than me that every shot felt like a challenge to me, but it wasn't until later I realized that the games were totally fake. It was a complete waste of time for them to play with me from the perspective of them getting better themselves. So they didn't really have to try, which meant I wasn't getting realistic points and realistic balls that I needed to hit. Nothing I did really mattered in those games, so I felt like I was getting reps, but I wasn't really. I covered this topic in another video, citing a concept called the zone of proximal development.
First, there is what we can do on our own. Then, there is the zone of proximal development, which represents what we can do with the help of an adult, a friend, technology, or what Vygotsky called the more knowledgeable other.
Which basically states that you should, if you want to get better the fastest, you want to be playing with players in a Goldilocks range of your ability. Just a little bit better, a little bit worse, because if you go too far out, you're not going to be improving. So what I should have been doing is drilling and playing games with players that were just within reach of my ability instead of trying to swim out all the way into the ocean to try to find the pros. Another mistake I made was waiting way too long to play tournaments. I felt like I had all of these ability-based milestones that I needed to hit. I needed to beat certain players in rec before I felt like I could play tournaments at a certain level. I felt like I needed to feel really confident in a certain shot before I felt like I it would be worth it for me to register for a tournament. And actually, I haven't even played that many tournaments to this day. Just a few PPAs, 1 APP, and a handful of local tournaments. This is a shortcoming of my own. I should be playing a lot more tournaments if I want to get better. But when I played my first 4-5 tournament, I medaled. And that made me feel like I shouldn't play 4-5 anymore. But I didn't really feel ready for 5-0. I didn't think I would really, I thought that there was a good chance I would just go 0-2 and just waste my time and money playing that tournament. But that was the wrong mentality. I should have kept playing up into the range that I felt most close to, even if it felt like a bit of a reach, because it would give me more tournament reps and ultimately make me more comfortable in that competitive environment. It would also give me a realistic level check and expose the things that were letting me down in those types of games, as well as the things that work. One thing that I've discovered over time is that my speed ups are actually kind of pro level. They work against pros. Even though I'm not gonna do that well in a pro tournament at my level, there are certain strengths that I have that are at that level. So it really helps you dial in like what aspects of your game are true weaknesses, things that higher level players are going to exploit until you lose the game, and which parts of your game are actually quite serviceable, things that are going to be huge advantages for you at your level and might even work at the level up. So if I had to redo this phase from 4-0 to 5-5, I would probably play double or maybe even triple the tournaments that I did. And finally, the biggest mistake that you can make is comparing yourself to other people, because the only player that you really need to compare yourself with is the player that you were yesterday. If you're making an improvement compared to that player every day, you're going to achieve your goals. Other people are going to get better, faster, or slower than you because of their athletic ability and their sports backgrounds. Some people are taking it seriously and some people don't care at all. They're just there to have fun. Some people have the luxury of playing all the time and some people really don't have time at all. But that should be irrelevant to your own journey as a player. It doesn't impact you. So stop looking around and focusing on yourself. Too much envy and you're gonna get discouraged. Too much pride and you're gonna get complacent. Just focus on yourself and growing every day and you'll get much better than you ever thought you could. Now there's one shot that's more important than any other shot on your road to 5-0, and that's the third shot drop. If that is a shot that you haven't mastered yet, you should watch this video where I've compiled all the best tips from the top pros on how to hit that shot perfectly. Watch that here.